Okay, we're now live streaming. Sorry for the delay. We've had some technical difficulties, and it should only impact some live streaming if it should happen again. I'll turn the meeting over to yourself, Mayor Eady.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Ask for the calling of the roll, please.
Thank you. Mayor Eady?
Present.
Reeve Eamon?
Present.
Councillor Koulis?
Present.
Councillor Evans?
Present.
Councillor Hines?
Present.
Councillor Jameson?
Present.
Councillor Sidney?
Present.
We do have a quorum, Mayor Eady.
Thank you. Is there any declaration of community interest on the general nature thereof? Okay, hearing none. Over to our first motion, that Darla Campbell, on behalf of Dillon Consulting, be heard before council. Move her, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Jameson. Turn it over to Darla for her report. Thank you. And welcome now, Darla.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Council. I look forward to sharing with you some highlights from the asset management project, where we're at and how close we are to completion, as well as to share with you the results of the level of service survey that was conducted in March, and I think you'll find the results quite interesting. So I'm going to share screen so we can take a look at the presentation here, and we will be, after the meeting, sending you a copy of the presentation as well as a copy of the printed report, which is the summary of the survey results. All right. My name is Darla Campbell, and I am the project manager for Dillon Consulting, and I am a specialist in asset management. All right, so here's what we have in the short presentation. An overview of where the project is at. We'll talk about a bit of an asset management refresher along the key principles, and this helps the municipality to be able to meet the training requirements that is part of the funding from FCM. So we'll make that as quick as we can, and then we'll get into the levels of service survey results. With the high-level themes, 7 themes that we noticed in the results, and then we'll have time for some questions. All right, so project plan. So asset management. We are, with respect to the asset management plan, we're looking at a state of infrastructure on what you currently have within your assets, the age of the assets, the estimated useful life, what the replacement cost, and what the current condition is. We're looking at levels of service, and part of what we'll be talking about today is the move towards being able to identify proposed levels of service for year 10 in your asset management plan. Looking at asset management strategy and risk, life cycle strategy within a risk framework, and there was a risk workshop that was held with the team a while back. And then financial strategy, so looking at 20 years to take a look at how you will be funding the levels of service for your project. Along with the asset management project, we also had 2 other components that were delivered by Watson & Associates. That was the DC study with development charges, as well as the water studies for water and sewer rate study and the water financial plan. So those 2 are now completed, and we are nearing completion for the asset management plan. So asset management is investing wisely over the long term. It's about balancing operations, risks, and costs. It's about providing your community with the right service at the optimal cost and keeping your community's future needs in mind. And asset management is guided by an ISO standard, ISO 55000. And asset management is defined as the coordinated activity of an organization to realize value from assets. And that will normally involve a balancing of costs, risks, opportunity, performance benefits. There's 7 essential questions in asset management. What do you have and where is it and what is it worth? So that's your inventory and replacement costs. Question 3 is what's its condition and expected remaining service life? Question 4 is the level of service expectation and what needs to be done to maintain that level of service. And we'll be talking about, or I'll be sharing with you highlights from the what your community is expecting for levels of service. And then 5, 6, and 7 is the art and science of asset management. Once we know the asset inventory, the condition, and the levels of service, we can begin to build the plan for when do you need to do the work to improve the condition and extend the useful life of your assets. How much will it cost? What's the acceptable level of risk, as in how long can you delay that investment? And how do you ensure long-term affordability? in your asset management plan that will be coming to council in the not too distant future, you'll be able to review, and this is just a sample here, state of infrastructure of your network and of your assets, ranked from very good, good, fair, poor, and very poor, and being able to see where you're at in your current condition. And then, of course, asset management delivers value to your community through the performance that your community receives from the assets, the service delivery, which is a balancing of risk and cost. I talk a little bit about the asset management readiness scale from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. There are 5 competencies in the asset management readiness scale, and these include policy and governance, people and leadership, data and information, planning and decision-making contribution to asset management practice. And these are key and part of the funding that you have through the MAP program, is advancing your progress on each of these 5 competence areas. And talking about governance, you do have a strategy, your asset management strategic policy, which does talk about levels of service. And then in asset management, we're looking at a life cycle approach. As an asset gets older, it ages, goes from a very good condition, good, fair, poor, and very poor. And asset management is about identifying these renewal opportunities, or this renewal zone, somewhere around fair and poor, to improve the condition and extend the useful life. If we wait too long, we increase the risk of failure of the asset, either complete failure or underperformance of that asset. And then in the pie chart up here, asset management is mostly about operations and maintenance through the life cycle of the asset. The construction and the engineering is only about a 20% slice of the life cycle pie. Focusing on levels of service here, there's really 2 sides to this. The technical level of service, what is the asset capable of performing, delivering to the community, and what performance is it actually achieving? That's a technical level of service. What service does the municipality deliver? And then the community level of service is what service does the community receive? And so it's from a delivery and a receiving perspective, levels of service. And then your assets in the various categories and components deliver services like drinking water, cleaning wastewater, and protecting the environment, protecting property from flooding, transportation services in roads and bridges and culverts. Your buildings and facilities provide admin service, council meetings, public works, library, recreation. Sidewalks provide active transportation, solid waste collection, disposal, recycling are services that you deliver. Under fleet and equipment, you also deliver fire services, roads services, including winter control and recreation services, and parks and recreation provide recreation services. And it was these services that we asked the public to provide comments on. When we're looking at proposed levels of service, the regulation 58817 does ask municipalities to understand your current level of service with evidence from the last 2 years, and to look at proposed levels of service. Where would you like your levels of service to be going in year 10, and beginning to look at how a level of service can change over time, either by design or default. And where do you have opportunities to adjust the proposed levels of service, dialing it up or dialing it down? So here we get into sort of the meat of the presentation, which are the levels of service survey results. The survey was available from March 1st to March 21st. It was launched and advertised with a mail out, and it was available on the town's website. And for those who wanted a printed copy of the survey, they could fill it in by paper, and then it was input online. You had 239 responses to your survey, which is an amazing number. The large majority were residents. More than half of the respondents were under the age of 65, and 4% preferred not to provide an age. Approximately half of the survey respondents come from a 2-person household, 15% in a 1-person household, and nearly a quarter live in households of 3 or more. And then the summary that we're providing here is an overview of what we heard and the themes that emerged from the data that was collected. These survey results will be used to guide the development of the asset management plan and inform the priorities and direction. So let's jump to it. So theme number 1 is around level of satisfaction of services. And what we discovered was that your community is generally satisfied with the programs and services provided by the town. And we've organized the levels of service average rating here. Just to be clear, this wasn't the order that was in the survey itself. It was in a random order, but we've listed them here with the highest level of satisfaction with your library services down through fire and emergency services, waste management and recycling. And then towards the bottom of the list, active transportation and transportation service, roads and bridges. Then keeping in mind that on the scoring system that was provided, that the scores are relatively tight. And so you can be pleased with the level of satisfaction of the services. In question 2, we asked about services that need improvement, and the theme here is that the community feels that most of the services do not need improvement at this time from a level of service that the community is receiving. And we've got them listed here, that most of the services on the list do not need improvement. There are a few that still land in the improvement category. Top one is transportation services, active transportation, and then winter control, which is also related to snow removal and roads. So that's generally a good news story. We asked about the expected level of service by residents, and knowing that residents don't really think about buying services from a municipality, we asked the question around their experience in a restaurant and if they could think about comparing municipal services to a style of restaurant, which one would they feel most comfortable with? And 78% said that they prefer receiving services in a family diner at a medium or moderate cost. 10% said they prefer higher cost and white tablecloth kind of service, and then 11% were fast food and a drive-through service, split from 7 to 4%. So we've got really strong support here around the family diner style of service. Then we asked some willingness to pay questions for services. And theme number 4 is overall, the majority of residents are willing to pay an increase or a slight increase in taxes or fees to maintain the current levels of service. And so the question was asked that if we maintained fees at the same level, there would be a decrease of service over time. That was 18%. 63% when we combined the increased fees slightly to maintain or increase fees moderately to enhance services, you received a 63% score, 15% unsure. So that's a strong support for willingness to pay. And then we asked the question from a dollars perspective, and the results said that a majority, 52% of respondents said that they were willing to pay more to either maintain or increase service, so 52%. And the more that we defined was $10 per month more to maintain current services, $20 per month more to slightly increase service, or $30 per month more to increase service. So those three together came up to 52%. And interesting to note that 31% would pay more to increase or slightly increase levels of service. And we still have a fairly high percentage of 17% of an unsure here. We asked questions through all the services that were on the survey, whether that service was up for maintaining, whether there's a preference to maintain the current service, knowing that was likely to pay more, whether to decrease service, likely to pay the same or less, improving service in the light blue, likely pay more or do not use. And so, and the question was described or set up based on possible funding and service level outcomes. Respondents were asked to indicate their preference for maintaining, increasing, or decreasing the service level. And so we came up with an interesting chart like this. And then this translates to the top three on the maintained services, so likely to pay more. Waste management services, fire and emergency and recycling services have a higher priority. And prefer to improve, so even go beyond maintain. 43% said focus on transportation services, winter control for 23, and active transportation at 22. So we're seeing some consistent results across the different ways that we've identified the services, and there is a preference here to maintain or improve levels of service that you're delivering in your municipality. And then when we ask the question about priorities to allocate funding, realizing that there may be circumstances due to limited resources where the town needs to make decisions on where to allocate the funding. And respondents were asked to prioritize the most important 3 services for funding. We've given you the top 4 because 3 and 4 are really close from a percentage. So prioritizing funding for transportation services, so 98%, almost everyone who responded to the survey had that on their top 3 list. Drinking water at 89, winter control at 78, and fire and emergency services at 73. And then I think I have 2 more slides. We asked the participants to rank attributes for service delivery, and this is to get a sense of how of these 4 different attributes, the priority for your community. And the top choice out of the 4 was the most important was how nice or the quality of the services. So our community needs nicer or better quality services, followed by and closely behind how energy efficient our buildings are. So our community needs to focus on energy efficiency. And then 3 and 4, how many capacity our community needs more services, and how accessible our community needs more accessible services, falling into 3 and 4. So that provides a little bit of a flavor of where to be considering investing in the future. And then we did a pairwise preference comparison between 2 options. And so 92% of residents prefer smoother roads to more multi-use trails. 51% prefer more recreational facilities than more recreational programs. But that's a tight one there. 64% of residents prefer more online resources than more library open hours. And 78% of residents prefer expanded recycling organics pickup to more frequent garbage pickup. So these were 4 scenarios that we tested with these pairwise comparisons, and those are the results. So that's the end of the presentation. I think we have some time for some questions. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much. If you could take that screen down, I'd appreciate it, and we can see all the council.
For sure.
Thank you. Okay, council, any questions or comments? Councillor Evans and then Rebimo.
Thank you. Just quickly, Darla, would it be possible to get a copy of that presentation? I don't seem to have it in my package.
Yes. A copy of the presentation and the summary of the survey report will also be sent to council after the meeting.
Cheers. Thank you.
Rebimo and then Director Aslo.
Thank you. Looking forward to looking at the extended report. Very quickly, was there a comment section? And if there was, can you give us a sense of the flavor of the comments that were received?
Yes. So we did identify there were some open-ended comments which we have included in the results. I'm just pulling them up here quickly. We asked for comments specifically connected to service areas, and that was really helpful. So we have comments for each of the service categories. I don't know exactly where to start to answer your question. With respect to what was most common, but most common for drinking water, better communication for service disruptions, and concern about high water rates compared to other similar sized municipalities were 2 comments that came in. And these are comments that were in the survey, not necessarily tabulated in any kind of an order. So these are individual comments. Parks and Recreation, someone commented that looking to build a swimming pool and provide better information on recreational programming. So there are some interesting ones. A comment from Library Services, improve ordering books from other libraries and provide more funding to keep up the programming at the library. So there's some thoughtful ideas that have come through in the survey that I'm sure council will find interesting.
Thank you.
Director Aston.
Yes, through the chair, I'm just going to add, we will circulate a document along with the presentation, and it's called the Asset Management Levels of Service Survey Summary. The Development and Works Department did kind of have a preview just as an update to the asset management plan prior to being directed to council, but certainly there's a lot of good feedback from the community in a lot of the areas, and We tried to stay out of how the questions were asked, and let Darla and her expertise kind of craft the survey. If you recall, we did provide copies of the questions of the survey to council before it did go out to the public, just to get any feedback from the council members. And so I think Darla has done an excellent job in summarizing the information. It's difficult to do with that number of respondents.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Not hearing anyone else. Darla, thank you very much. Very well done and well explained, and appreciate you making the effort to come here tonight and make that presentation. So thank you again. Okay, all in favor of that presentation? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held May 10th, 2022 be adopted as printed. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Jemison. Any question or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. That the minutes of the special meeting of council held May the 19th, 2022 be adopted as printed. Mover, please. Councillor Evans, second by Councillor Koulis. Again, any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor? I'm sorry, Councillor Hines, you had a question? Okay, all in favor then? Carried, thank you. Okay, whereas the Longest Day of Smiles encourages community ambassadors to raise awareness and funds to help child born with cleft condition smile and change their life with free, safe cleft surgery and comprehensive care. And whereas Operation Smile Canada is a volunteer-delivered global medical charity that exists to ensure everyone has access to safe, effective surgery and that they need whenever they live in the world. And be it resolved that I, Mayor Donady, Town of Renfrew, hereby proclaim June 19, 2022 as the longest day of smiles in the Town of Renfrew. Over, please. Bimo, second by Councillor Evans. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. The correspondence from the Sunshine Coach Service regarding fare increase July 22. Maybe we start over again. The correspondence from Sunshine Coach Service Renfrew regarding fare increase July 1st, 2022 be received. Mover, please. Maybe a second by Councillor Koulis. Any questions or comments on this? Okay, this was a letter of, sorry, Rebimo.
Thank you. I think, I think this bears paying attention to, and I don't mean that in a negative sense. I think it's just to be aware of it. You know, they very correctly, I think, and quite accurately note all of the cost increases, which are electricity, insurance, vehicle, fuel costs, water prices, repair costs, all of those things. And I think, you know, the notation or the information about the supply chain and the cost of their vehicles, you know, their smallest coach rising $17,000 approximately in or 30% in 1 year is alarming. And again, I think the one piece that will be interesting will be the changeover from when they have to change all of their 16 vehicles from gasoline to a zero emission fleet or hybrid electric in 13 years. So I think that cost is going to be something, and I'm hopeful that in the next little while we can assist them in if there's any programming that the federal provincial government has that we can steer their way. Because I think that's going to be quite a daunting cost for them. So, but I'm glad we got this information. It certainly is timely and very informative.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? That's carried, thank you. Okay, that the minutes of the Planning Advisory Committee held April the 5th, 2022 be adopted as printed. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Jemison. Turn over to Councillor Hines for the report.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is the minutes of our May 3rd meeting. And as you will note, we've already dealt with the Carisway patio. We dealt with that at the council meeting of May the 10th, and that was passed at council. So under new and unfinished business, just some highlights about what is up and coming for planning. And there are 3 minor variance applications coming forward in our June meeting, and public notices have gone out for those, and requests have come forward to build secondary dwelling units within attached accessory buildings. That's currently not permitted in our bylaw, but we'll be looking at that. An application was received for a multi-res unit at Arthur Avenue, and that's down by the swinging bridge, and staff were reviewing the site plan, so we'll see something probably coming to council in the very near future in regard to that. And as we noted at the last meeting in May, or the May 10th meeting, St. Joe's High School has been recently awarded some grant money and are going to be expanding there. Mayor Edie was there to hear that presentation. And phase 5 of Huntergate, they're working with the developer on that to move that forward, and also to address phase 4 deficiencies. And the commercial development on O'Brien Road is still moving forward, although we don't have a whole lot of detail on that. And of course, we had some recent discussions and inquiries in regard to tiny homes and the legislation to just review that information and discuss it and provide some direction for moving forward in regard to where that fits in our official plan. And that was our meeting. Our next meeting is June the 7th. So, but that other meeting the meeting to deal with the tiny homes and that information will be a special meeting, perhaps before a council, whatever is going to work for Mayor Edie and council. And that's the report of May 3rd.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry, there was a typo on the motion. I changed it from April 5th to May the 3rd, 2022. Any questions or comments?
There's a typo. Oh. There's a typo.
Reading more.
Your Worship, I'm glad that we're going to be having a conversation about the secondary suites, tiny homes, and there's all sorts of names for it. I think it's necessary for a number of reasons. I'm glad that we're going to be doing that, and I would hope that part of that would be a discussion about some kind of incentive program to assist people in developing secondary units in whatever shape or form. I think it's very important. And then lastly, if I might ask, when we see the comment on phase 4 deficiencies, are those deficiencies significant, or are they ripples in pavement and sidewalks that need to be finished, and normal, I would say normal housekeeping things in a large development? Thank you.
Okay, Director Aslan.
Yes, through the chair, I can speak to the deficiencies. Essentially, it's normal type subdivision deficiencies, repairing the base asphalt before the final lift goes on, just confirming the piped infrastructure is good. There's a bit of work to do on the street light poles, a few sidewalk panels to change out because of cracks, so regular kind of routine subdivision deficiencies, nothing major. It's we're just working with the developer, McGrimmon, Holdings to come up with a plan to complete that this summer, because the residents have endured construction-like environment there for quite a long time.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, a question for Revimo, not a very tough one. I know we have a home for people down Hall Street, which are basically fairly, not very large apartments, but they're very adequate for one person. Is there any talk at the county level about building more of them types of homes, especially in Renfrew?
Well, at present, we have on the books a 6-unit development slated for Pembroke assistive homing. They're all single story, between 700 and 900 square feet. The idea is to do 6 units, and with a 7th unit, which would be a loosely worded, my terminology, probably inaccurate, community hub, so that when people come to deliver services, whether it's Meals on Wheels, sorry, or in-home nursing, or paramedics to do community paramedicine, then there's a site for that. The idea with developing something like that is that it's a pod that then can be replicated in other communities. For the most part, the difficulty is funding. A development like that, you know, the numbers run over 2 million and slightly under 3 or 4, and it's gone up considerably, and the funding that's available through the province and the federal government doesn't come close to that. And the formula I think to be successful for Renfrew County Housing Corporation or a not-for-profit is they need to have probably approximately 50% of the construction costs in order to get towards some kind of business case that allows it to operate. So short answer is no, there's nothing slated that I can point to in a calendar for Renfrew or other areas. We're still waiting to sort out the cost for that 6-pod unit in the Pembroke area, because it's on county land adjacent to some other Renfrew County Housing Corporation properties. And then once that is in place, and if the funding makes sense, then we could probably look at moving it outwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, the next motion being that the notice of motion concerning the capital budget facilities C be received. Mover, please. Councillor Jamison, second by Councillor Coulis. Any questions or comments on this? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. The next motion being the Renfrew Town Council endorse the removal of the following 2022 capital project from Schedule C capital budget facilities, caboose $5,000. Mover, please. Councillor Jamison, second by Revimo. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none. No questions, no comments? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor? Carried, thank you. With the minutes of the Parks and Recreation Facilities Committee meeting held May the 17th, 2022 be adopted as printed. Mover, please. Councillor Sidney, second by Councillor Hines. Turn over to Councillor Sidney for the report.
Thank you. This meeting was May 17th. We met in person at the town hall. Just a few things I want to highlight. The Recreation Department is going to be working with the BIA to water the hanging baskets. There's, I think, approximately 73 baskets that the town watered last year, and we're just looking at cost recovery. So I know Councillor Coulis, who is a member of the BIA, was looking into that for further information. I think council will be open to this. 8.1 Innovation Drive. The discussion of the building and everything that's going on and leases and You know, the clerk's department is looking at that, and the rec facilities are looking at other things. So we recommend that we hold a special committee of a whole meeting where everything is discussed and everybody gets put on, council gets all put on the same page and everything like that. So that'll be coming in the near future between Director Hill and Director Palmer. Junior A contract, there's a couple of things that they want to change, and we just looked at those and going back to lawyers. The Empire Pool Agreement, that changed a little bit where the town of Empire didn't want to continue to do the way that we have been doing it for years, and we offered them an opportunity to pay a flat rate, similar to what we get from our neighboring municipalities and townships for our rec facilities. So there is negotiations still pending. I know Mayor Eady, you were going to speak to Mayor Stack. I believe you did do that. I saw an email. So I think we're waiting to hear back if you haven't heard anything at this point. Transformer, a report will be coming to council in the very near future for that. The tennis courts, fence posts are up. I believe I gotta get this right. Director Hill can maybe, something's going in tomorrow. And next week the fencing, I believe, is getting put up. So it's moving along quite nicely. Getting ready for the mid of June to have it totally finished and laid with the people coming from the Toronto area. Mattaway Activity Center, the expansion, the steel is almost all up. They're coming back, I believe it's next week, to finish the steel. Fortunately for us, the steel is coming from PEI, and the workers that are putting it up are from PEI, so they're not affected in the strike that's going on. Other than that, pretty much everything is at a standstill because of the strike. So I know Director Hill's been in lengthy conversations with the developer to work on that one. And yeah, if there's any more when we closed, if anybody has any questions, let me know.
Any questions or comments? On the pool agreement, I've talked to Mayor Stack. He's got back to me twice, but neither time he has a firm answer. His CAO has been on holidays, and I think he's back maybe today. So he said he'd get back to me just as soon as possible. And as soon as he does, I'll pass the information on.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Revimo.
Thank you. Glad to see the Innovation Center will be having committee of the whole. To discuss it. I think that's a pretty complex topic, and it'd be nice to focus on it for an hour or more just to be brought up to speed and assist in making some plans for the long term. So thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing nothing, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Okay. The Renfrew Town Council directs the Director of Parks and Recreation and Facilities Director, Corporate Services Clerk, and Deputy Treasurer to prepare a presentation on one innovation drive to be presented to the committee the whole meeting. Mover, please. Councillor Sidney, second by Councillor Jemison. And again, any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. This motion is that the minutes of the Development and Works Committee meeting held April the 12th, 2022 be adopted as printed. Mover, please. Councillor Koulis, second by Councillor Revimo. Turn over to Councillor Koulis for the report.
Thank you, Your Worship. One correction, it's not an April meeting, it was in May. It's a May 10th meeting, improperly noted on the agenda. We dealt with a request from the principal of Our Lady of Fatima School concerning a crosswalk situation there. They asked for reconsideration on the town's position to not reinstate road markings for a school crossing at Mason and Baldwin Streets. We did see those markings removed whenever construction was done on Baldwin. 7 years ago now, in 2015. The Administration Economic Development and Tourism Committee met in December and agreed to establish a cost-sharing agreement with the Renfrew County Catholic School Board, similar to the ones that are at other schools, where the board covers 50% and the town would cover the other. And the RCCSB declined the proposal, and therefore the principal has asked us to consider other measures, such as road markings and signage. So in the end, we have directed staff to provide a report to committee on the MTO requirements for a school crossing zone. We're hoping that we can maybe just install the markings again on Baldwin or Mason to eliminate any chance of any accidents in that area. There was a concern about a pump station landscaping in the Coleraine Drive development, and that has been, we're working closely with Halting Landscaping on that. Building report touched on that, advised that there's new residential buildings are expected to be received in the next few months as developers seek to submit and gain approval prior to July 1, whenever the development charges are set to increase. It was also advised that the Lapine development is moving its resources to Smiths Falls and Carleton Place, that's the Crane and so on, to begin projects in those areas. Permits for the remaining 2 buildings are estimated to come in sometime in 2023. They are working under delays experienced because of union strikes and ongoing negotiations as well. We did discuss at length the O'Brien Road construction capital project at the meeting. I see there's alternate things coming up later on in this meeting concerning that particular item, that and the construction proposal for Hague, Joffrey, and Dufferin. We received tenders, but the construction tender, as it says here in your report, for O'Brien Road came in at approximately $2 million over our budget. Staff then decided to scale back the project somewhat to see if we couldn't get closer to budget, and they have come up with an alternative to the one that we had proposed initially. The committee was not in favor of moving forward with the awarding of that construction over the concern of the reduced scope of the work and the required funds that we need to still come up with to do the job. The bottom line was that the committee felt the road wasn't in that bad of shape that we could get 1 more year out of it and re-tender this thing probably later on this year, and may very well get more than 1 submission. The downside, I guess, to that is that we would have to ask the provincial governments to reinstate that $3 million grant. It was felt that by the majority of committee that $3 million would be reinstated, but we have to wait until the fall for an answer to that, till September, October of this year. We're under a very similar situation on Baldwin, or on Joffrey, Hague, and Dufferin, in that it came in at 1.6 million over budget. Those streets are in very bad shape. It was suggested by the committee that staff draft a report to council stating that the committee's decision not to proceed with the award for construction and to work with engineers to re-tender and extend deadlines into 23. the feeling was that if we could retender this project as early as next month for construction to begin later this year and finish in 23. This is a project that does not hinge on any government funding. It's something we have to pay for ourselves. I think there's ongoing discussion later on this evening, this meeting, concerning these two projects, so I'll leave it at that. Sidewalks on Hall Avenue have been noted as by a few residents as being very, very bad to walk on. I'm getting more complaints all the time. No matter where I go, it seems, well, anyway, the section on the west side, it says east on this report, but it's actually the westbound side of Hall Street, the north side, between Lynn and Dominion is slated to be replaced later this year, this summer. And that's pretty much the extent of the report, or the meeting.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments? Review.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can inform you and council that 7.3, the development charges initiative by the County of Renfrew and our investigation is still ongoing. And I think one of the things that became a little better known was that it's not strictly for were it to be implemented. It's not strictly for roads and streetlights. That seems to have been the tag or the cover that was given to it by some. You know, it would part of it would be the housing, as the mayor has asked about, paramedics, long-term care, Ontario Works, and childcare as well are other responsibilities for the county. So I think it's not going to be discussed anytime soon. There's still some work to be done on it. I don't recall if it's going to be fall or early January. I think my impression is it's likely going to line up early in January or February with the budget cycle, but I can't give you a guarantee on that. As soon as I know more, I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Hines?
Just a little maybe explanation in regard to the added item there in regard to the Horton development, or I take it there is no formal request from what this is saying. Are we dealing with that at some time in the future as council or planning, or what's, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot if it's just something that's not ready to come yet.
Councillor Koulis?
Through you, Mayor, Your Worship, this item was added at the end. Thanks for pointing that out.
No, that's okay.
I didn't pass right through it. It was just a request through a member of the committee from secondhand from a developer, and no actual formal application has been made to the town. So we just discussed it informally, and the answer basically was, until we see something in writing, a formal request, what are we talking about?
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? I will have a short explanation on the O'Brien Road. Said I would talk to our member of parliament on it, which I did, and he came back to me today with an answer, and I'll explain that when we get to that motion. Okay, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, that the minutes of the Waste Management Committee meeting held April the 4th, 2022 be adopted as printed. Move it, please. Reeve Emo, seconded by Councillor Evans. Turn over to Reeve Emo.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and through you, I can report to council and the community that we met on April 4th. It was a virtual meeting, and I'll take you to page 27.1, Innovation Drive Recycling. There was Director Hill notified us that he'd received a request from a tenant at One Innovation Drive looking for some recycling programs to be located there. So we've we've set up a temporary measure until we see a little more from the producer responsibility initiative of the province. Thank you to Director Hill and his staff for assisting us with that. Landfill 8.1. Again, we've had our monitoring and operation report's been submitted. A copy of it is upstairs, and you can take a look at it if you want. Lots of heavy reading. Phase 4, which is the site that we're working on right now, is believed to have 25 years remaining, so we're staying pretty consistent with that. And we're still working on obtaining our downstream groundwater easements. The data call, as you see, was due on April 29th, and it was submitted, and that allows us to receive some funding from the current Blue Box program. Household Hazardous Waste Day started, was held the first Saturday, which was May the 7th, and you'll hear more in our next report about the volumes. The volumes were up significantly, and we're quite happy with that. And that, at this point, is what I can report to you on behalf of Councillor Evans and myself and Mayor Eady.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Evans.
Hey, just one correction, Peter. We started at 8:30 that day.
My apologies. Yes, we did. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Okay, the Director Aslam's report dated May the 17th, 2022, concerning the award of construction of Joffrey, Hague, and Dufferin Street be received. Over, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Evans. I'll turn it over to Director Aslam for the report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Eady, and the Chair of Development and Works kind of just provided a good overview of this project as well as O'Brien Road project, but we'll go through them one by one. So the town's capital budget for 2022 included the reconstruction of Joffrey, Hague, and Dufferin Street, and that engineering for those projects were awarded July 2021. So from that time, the design was completed, and in March, we did go out to tender for the construction services, and we did have 3 contractors that picked up contracting documents, tender documents, and they were quite active during the tendering process. And at the time of closing, we did receive only one bid from BEI at a cost of $2.991 million. Now, the total project cost included in our capital budget was $1.8 million. So we looked at the costs in detail, and the capital budget sort of supports the road portion, sidewalk portion of the budget. We did have some water and sewer works that were to be completed as part of this project. There's about $949,000 in water and sewer works, and those are generally funded outside of the taxation capital budget for roads. So when we looked at the funds that we do have available, we have the 1.8 million plus 949,000. So when we looked at contingencies and overall project costs, we still we're going to end up short based on the original tender of $807,463. So that's a substantial increase over the budgeted funds. And this particular project does not have any funding requirements. There's no transfer payment agreements through the province. The project was being funded using OSIF money to the tune of $1.5 million and the FMC1 reserve of $245,000 for the total of 1.8. So in this case, staff are recommending that we retender the project and we extend the deadlines into 2023 to try to attract more bidders. If we tender it out after this council meeting, if council decides not to award it, then we would see if we could attract a greater number of bids by extending the timelines. I guess there's no guarantees if you'll get more tenders submitted, or if the prices will be lower, or prices actually may be higher, depending on what the fuel prices are doing and what the other economic factors are. So in this particular case, we're recommending, which is in agreement with the Development and Works Committee, that the project not be awarded, and that we re-tender the project as soon as council determines that we're not awarding, and then we'll see if we can attract more bids. In this case, it didn't really make a lot of sense to start, to get it down to the $1.8 million. We would have had to, start removing like Hague Street from the project. So, they would mobilize for Dufferin and Joffrey, and then next year we'd tender out again, and they would have to come back and do Hague, which didn't make a lot of sense because it's just adding mobilization costs. So I think there's value in keeping the project together as the three streets. It's pretty much all the streets in that entire block, and we're recommending that council support the Development Works Committee and staff's views to not award at this time and re-tender, and see if we can get more bids.
Okay, any questions, comments on this? Okay, hearing none. Okay, read email.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I guess it's sort of a half comment, half question. It seems to be unusual, in this time that there's only one bidder. Do we have any understanding as why geographically there seems to be a bidder aligned with our community and not bidders from close by? Not a suspicious sort, but I'm curious.
Yeah, we did look at that, and Armpire recently tendered a couple of projects, and they only had one bidder as well, and it happened to be a different bidder than our bidder. There was a project recently tendered in Kingston, and there were no bidders. There was another tender in Bancroft just recently in the last few weeks, and there was only one bidder there. So it seems to be something going on in the industry where the industry may be saturated with work, or their time commitments to guarantee that they're going to finish all the work that they are able to get through tender. And that's sort of the message we got back from one of the contractors is they had a lot on their plate, and if they were successful in all the tenders that they bid, then they wouldn't be able to complete them on time on the schedule. So by extending the schedule, we'll see if that plays a factor in the number of bidders that we received.
So if I may, Your Worship, just a second question. So my recollection of this work is it's not a sidewalk to side, it's not sidewalks, it's essentially grass to grass, and it's scooping down the base, and then some reasonably significant drainage, storm drain work, and sewer and water.
That's correct. There's $949,000 worth of underground work. So that's where there seems to be more road type contractors doing work. When you get into the underground, it gets more specialized, and it's higher risk, and they have to deal with traffic in a different manner, and that presents more risks, less opportunity for a guarantee as far as smooth workflow from the contractors. So that may be a factor as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Just for the general public to know, them three streets in total, that's 1 kilometer almost exactly, 1 kilometer of roads coming in at that price. So just for the general public to understand the cost to do these jobs, it's not inexpensive. And so anyway, that's where we stand on that. Okay, all in favor? Sorry.
Just one final comment is I think the community needs to hear and understand that these roads are in very, very poor condition, and they're rated very highly for rehabilitation in the asset management plan. So the town and staff have tried their best to deliver these projects and to keep within the budgets that we had available. So I think the town is still committed. If they retender you know, we may be having another discussion about how we tackle these projects based on the new tenders that come in. But certainly the road is in need of improvement, and there's value to do all those streets in one project as well. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Hines.
Well, having said that, I think that council does have that commitment to look after them, and the funding that was put together by the finance department still exists there. The FMC 1 grant and the OSIF grant, those are still there to use, correct?
Yes, they are, and there are timelines for the use of the OSIF funds. So, so the acting treasurer, Aaron Broom, looked into that and spoke to the OSIF program manager, and we're still okay with a bit of delay in that project, but we can't hold on to those funds forever. We do have to spend them within a 5-year period from the time we receive the funds. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The Renfrew Town Council directs staff to not award the construction of Joffrey Hague and Dufferin Street at this time. Further, the Renfrew Town Council directs staff to re-tender the project and extend the construction deadline to October 2023. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Koulis. Any further questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the director Aslam's report dated May 17, 2022, concerning the award of construction of MTO CEL O'Brien Road, Gilman to Mask, be received. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Sidney. Turn over to Director Aslam for this report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Eady. This project is similar to Joffrey Hague Dufferin, with the major difference that there's provincial MTO connecting link funds that are attached to the project. The town has entered into a transfer payment agreement that requires that the construction be completed by the end of 2022, and a final report be issued by March of 2023. So this, when we look at the project, to meet the MTO guidelines, we would need to award a tender. Now, very similar to Joffrey Hague, we did put out the project for tender after it was designed by JP2G, and we did have 5 active bidders on this project, and the 5 active bidders were asking lots of questions. They were engaged during the tender process, and when the tender closed, we received 1 bid from Bonashare Excavating, and the cost of that project was $5.116 million. And our project, our overall project cost that we anticipated in the pre-tender was approximately $3.632 million. So that's a substantial difference. Now staff, we looked at the work that was included, and you know, as you all know, we've been undertaking MTO connecting link work along Highway 132 and Highway 60. So this particular project was running from Gillen Road to Mask, including the intersection of Mask and a park and ride on Mask Street. So we did look at at how we could reduce cost, and one method to reduce cost was to make our park and ride a little bit smaller, to not do the asphalt on the actual park and ride, and to not include the Mask Road intersection. So by doing that, what we would be doing is taking the intersection improvements and making it part of the next project, which would be from Mask Road to Wrangler Road. So we have submitted an application to MTO to do the design of that, and we're not successful on this round. So by reducing the scope, we're still meeting the MTO connecting link elements, but reducing the cost by removing the Mask Road intersection and some other works that have been identified. So we were able to bring the cost down quite a bit. And it's presented in the table at the end of the report here. And we could bring the construction cost from the tender of $6.116 million down to $3.559 million, which is a considerable cost reduction. And we did have those discussions with BEI as well. We did speak to the finance department and to identify where additional funds would come from to be able to support a reduced scope project. And $93,205 would come from the water fund, $350,000 from the Shave and Pave Reserve, and $209,980 from the 2023 Canada Community Building Funds. And that would be the funds that are required to support a total project cost of $4.285 million. Now, as indicated, if we don't award a contract, then to keep the $3 million, we have to make a request to the Ministry of Transportation that would flow to the minister. Now, due to the election, they have a writ that they cannot chime in on decisions on commitments of extensions until the election's over. So staff have advised us that the earliest we would likely hear of an extension through the minister's office would be in the late August to September, which is much too late to be able to do anything to construct the project. So the Development and Works Committee, similar to Joffrey Haig, had recommended that we don't award and that we basically approach the MTO to seek an extension. In speaking with the staff at the MTO, they can't kind of make any promises. They would rather see a reduced scope project proceed and spend your MTO connecting link money and get the $3 million grant, and then apply for sort of the works that we've taken out in the next contract. So that's their preference, but because of the dollars involved, we felt that it's important for council to consider the award of this contract or not. So I guess there's a lot more detail in the report, but maybe I'll just leave it at that and ask if council have any questions.
Okay. Just to clear the air, we bid on the $3 million grant. I did talk to our member of parliament, either the same day or the day after our committee meeting. I had got an answer back actually this afternoon, late this afternoon. He had talked to the minister in charge, and the minister in charge is not aware of extensions and is not sure what the answer would be on that. And that's the word I got back, and that was late this afternoon. The only other thing, and this is not connected to what I just said, not whatsoever connected to what I said, but maybe read the email through email, that may be a little better idea. If we go back to the last election, provincial election they had, a couple of the things that really come up from a municipal point of view was some of the grants that they were issuing on a continual basis, were they going to discontinue them grants or not? And connecting link, I think, was mentioned at that time, and it was a sigh of relief for the town of Renfrew that they extended that. I think it's $30 million a year that they extended that to. So other than that, that's my say on it. Director Aslan.
Yes, and I will just add that about 5 years ago, there was a period where the ministry did withdraw the Connecting Link funding program. Maybe it's just slightly more than 5 years, but they did kind of draw back that program at one point, and we ended up having to use our other provincial funds through the small rural and northern fund to do work on Highway 60. So, the ministry has always cooperated with the town in projects that we've had. We've done many projects with the MTO, and they've all gone very well. If we apply for an extension, we may get it, but if there's changes in the government or changes in policy or changes in their program, then all of a sudden we may not be eligible for that $3 million, and we may have to reapply and compete with all the other municipalities again for connecting link projects. So there is a real chance that we won't get the extension, and that we may actually lose the $3 million and have to compete for it again down the road in the future. We do have some development occurring on that stretch of road between Gillen and Mask. It would be nice to be able to coordinate it, but I respect council's decision. It's it's council's determination if they want to proceed or not, and staff will take that direction.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Revimo, and then Councillor Sidney.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I guess it's more of a comment than a question. We've had a pretty consistent program to improve our connecting links highways, and as I think as you've noted, and possibly Director Aslan, there's not instances or examples of across anywhere in the province that I could find where there has been an extension granted. There was for some weather-related difficulties in other municipalities, meaning loosely termed a tornado going through or something delaying the project. But there's been not anything for something like this where it's not a natural occurrence. And so I too would be nervous about turning this down. I think when you have a project that's at least 80% funded by another level of government, I think you have to take advantage of it. Because if we go back in the queue for this, we're not always guaranteed that every year we're going to be our project's going to be accepted. And I think there is some memory within the ministry staff or the district office at a minimum about the project and about the progress. And if you disrupt that, there's a chance that it'll force us to be 4 years instead of 3 years completing the project through to Highway 17. So I don't like it, what I'm seeing, but at the same time, I like the idea that we continue and that we would get $3 million in funding from the province to continue. So I'm based on what I'm seeing, I'm in favor of moving forward. I think I just think we have to keep building, and we're not going to get 80 or whatever percentage dollars on a regular basis. And this may be a trend that happens in the future as well with the rising costs. So I'm in favor of moving forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Sidney.
Just to Director Aslan, I appreciate you going back to finance and finding the money. I think that's good to know that we did that background since the committee. But it's sort of a twofold question. One is, what is the potential for running into unforeseen problems, and what's the contingency that we have? And by taking the money that we've just recently found through finance, what does that do to future projects, or maybe earmarked projects in the future? If we're taking 300 some thousand from Shave and Pave, how does that impact other spots?
Yeah. So Councillor Sidney, those are very good questions. As far as the funds that were used or found by finance, they're certainly taken out of reserve, so they will affect future projects that were probably in 2023, 2024 era. I think what it does though is it uses municipal funds to leverage a substantial amount of provincial grant. So you're using a certain percentage of town money to leverage a significant portion of grant money. So that's good value for the town. As far as the unexpected, I guess there's always unexpected. The engineer's letter recommends that we carry a 10% contingency. And in the funds that have been identified by finance, we have carried a 10% contingency for unforeseen elements that we construct. In this particular case, there's a underground storm sewer construction, so that's kind of a risky operation when you're digging in the ground. A lot of surface work with the park and ride and the extension on the width of the platform of the road, that's less risky. So I think we're confident with the 10% in managing risks. But I guess there's no guarantee that that when we dig down for the storm sewer, that something will be encountered that we didn't expect. But we did our due diligence in doing rock probes, so we're not going to hit rock. We did our geotechnical work over the alignment of that storm sewer to manage our risks associated with digging there. So I think with 10% we should be okay.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
And
Okay,
Mayor Eady, I was just going to add too, you know, I think we all wish we had more bidders involved. The MTO discussions, they earmark or they've described the prices that they're getting back on MTO projects as exponential increases in cost. So so we're not certain if that's associated with the, you know, the fuel prices, labor shortages in the industry, or just everybody's really busy. But certainly we don't know what's going to happen into the future if the fuel prices keep increasing. You know, I'm sure costs will keep escalating as well, but I guess we don't have our crystal ball.
Okay. Councillor Koulis, and then Councillor Evans, and then Councillor Hines. Hey, you're on.
There we are. Thank you, Your Worship. I still feel, as a member of that committee, the Development and Works Committee, at least for the next few months, I still feel that this is a mistake. I think scaling back this project is wrong. We had this project engineered. We paid the money to have it engineered, and now we're cutting back on the project. We're changing it so that we can fit into somebody's budget. We're giving it to a construction company that we're currently in negotiations with to settle a 4-year ago construction project downtown, with no consideration for that fact at all. The question was just asked by Councillor Sidney about difficulties in infrastructure and so on in that job, and yeah, we do keep some contingency money back, as we always have to. It's part of the deal. It's not something we've invented. It's part of the thing that everybody does. And it obviously wasn't enough for Raglan Street either. And so here we are in a situation with the economy the way it is, handing this project to the contractor who has given us the hardest ride of any of them, when we could very easily again postpone this one and hand it out in the fall. I mean, everybody's busy now. We didn't tender this thing till April. We could have tendered the thing in February. We might have had a lot more interest in it from contractors, but as it turns out, here we are. I have heard, and it's funny, I've heard it from other members of council too, I believe, that there has been in the past extensions to funding from the government for various reasons, and also that most of the comments coming from government people is that these projects are all coming in too high. So again, if you're going to award this thing, and it sounds like you're going to do it anyway, what's stopping us from having this problem every time we go to do an engineered project? Why are they coming in at $2 million and costing us $4 million? Why are they coming in at $6 million and costing us $9 million? What is going on here? Like, are the engineers not pricing these jobs as per the current rates? Why are we getting nailed every time we tender a job now? Is it because all of a sudden we've got this brand new economy we don't know how to adjust to? Those are questions we need to get answered.
Okay, Director Aston, I think you have an answer to your question, and after Director Aston, we'll move on to Councillor Evans.
Yeah, just to answer the question about the engineer's estimates. So the engineer that's designing this particular project, they have substantial experience in the construction projects that have been undertaken in Renfrew, right? So, and other locations. They work primarily in Renfrew County, you know, in all the municipalities from Ottawa all the way to Petawawa and further. And they basically estimate the cost of the project based on the most recent tenders plus any tenders that have closed recently. So they do use their experience, but what has happened in the prices that we've seen in these tenders, and it's not only with this particular contractor, it's in other tenders that have closed where there's very few bidders. The cost of fuel affects, you know, it's oil, and the asphalt's made out of oil, so the asphalt prices jump up. All the materials used in construction have to be transported by truck from, you know, one location to another to dig a hole. It's all fuel for the excavator, so I think that's what's driving up the cost. You know, there may be a market saturation for underground contractors as well, where you know, there's not that many around that work in this area. So to you know, to basically not be encouraging the contractors in the area to kind of keep working, there's a factor involved there as well. But you know, I do understand your point. It's your frustrations. When I talk to the ministry, you know, there's no guarantees on an extension for this contract. We'd have to request an extension, and like we said, you know, you wouldn't hear till September, which is much too late to do anything at that point. So, you know, again, it's kind of in council's hands. That's a lot of money and grant money.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you. I'll make this really quick. With the considerations of 89% funding by upper levels of government, that's 89%, comments that were made by Reeve Iman, past warden of the county, who would have an awful lot of experience on how municipal dollars are received from higher levels of government. I could not say no to an invitation or an offer of the $3 million today on such. Also understanding that with the cost of inflation going up, homes in our area have gone up to 100% in the past 2 years, and that wouldn't be an exaggeration. We're most likely going to see a gigantic increase in almost everything, or a devaluation of the dollar. So I jump on this opportunity, and it's really because of the amount of funding that we're getting on this. So thank you, Mike, for the work.
Councillor Hines.
I'm a bit of the same mind that $3 million is a lot of money to send back when we don't know what's going to happen with the election that's before us, and when they are able to deal with this again, whether it be an extension or we'd be sending the money back at that time anyways. So I just have a question in regard to the refining of the scope of the project, and you know, not doing as much as we had intended. The design is still already finished, so they could just pick up there, and if we apply for the next grant that might be out there to get in the next queue, I mean, for the remainder of the work. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. The JP2G letter kind of outlines the items that were removed from the scope. So the main one is the intersection of Mask. So essentially we'd be including that on the next MTO connecting link. We're just stopping a little bit short of where we were leaving off. The park and ride was quite large, and I don't think it would materially be affected by reducing the size a bit and not paving it. And we could apply to in the next phase to have it paved. So the changes aren't you know, drastic in the cuts that we had made to try to reduce it. We have talked to BEI as far as we're still using the tender prices that were submitted. We're just reducing the quantities of materials, so then the cost is lower. So we're doing it that way so that there's agreement between the contractor and the consultants on the scope of work. We don't have to redesign anything. We're just we've redlined the drawings that we have, and we're going to use those as the basis for the revised values if council awards this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. All in favor of the report? Okay. I should say, okay, this being the motion then, that bylaw 48-2022 being a bylaw to award construction services for the O'Brien Road Highway 60 project from Gillen Road to Mask Avenue to Vulture Excavating Incorporated BEI in the amount of $3,559,457.41 plus non-refundable HST be read a first time and deemed to have been read a second time. Mover, please.
May we have a recorded vote, please?
Sure, if you wish.
Yep, I do.
Okay, we need a mover first though. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Evans. Any further comments on this? Hearing none. Last call for the vote, please.
Okay, we have a call for recorded vote on the first and second reading of bylaw 48-2022. Reeve Eman.
I'm in favor.
Councillor Koulis.
I'm against.
Councillor Evans.
In favor.
Councillor Hines.
In favor?
Councillor Jemison.
Oh, God. I guess I don't have a choice. I guess I'm in favor.
Councillor Sidney.
In favor.
The motion is carried.
Mr. Mayor?
You didn't call for my vote,
Sorry, skipped right by you.
Homer, but I'm in favor.
Motion still carried. Sorry about that. Motion is still carried. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the bylaw 48-2022 being the bylaw to award construction services for the O'Brien Road Highway 60 project from Gillen Road to Mask Avenue to Vulture Excavating Incorporated BEI in the amount of $3,559,457.41 plus non-refundable HST be read a third time and be passed. Mover, please. Reeve Emo, seconded by Councillor Hines. Again, any further questions or comments? Hearing none, we still will be doing the recorded vote again, I believe.
Only if someone requests it.
Sure,
Okay, if requested.
just flows along.
So we have
Yes.
a recorded vote request for the third reading of motion to authorize the passage of bylaw 48-2022. Reeve Eman.
I'm in favor.
Councillor Koulis.
I'm against.
Councillor Evans.
In favor.
Councillor Hines.
In favor?
Councillor Jemison.
In favor.
Councillor Sidney.
In favor.
Mayor Eady. Motion is carried.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next motion of the Ontario Clean Water Agency report 2021 year in review be received. Over, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Jamison. Turn over to Director Aslam for this report.
Thank you, Mayor Eady. So annually, the Ontario Clean Water Agency does provide a 2021 or an annual report to review their operations. I did take a good look at this report prior to bringing it to council, and there's a couple of minor errors, or I guess clarifications that I requested from the Ontario Clean Water Agency. So on page 2, they indicate that there were two regulatory non-compliances. We have received the water inspection reports from the water plant, and as well the wastewater treatment reports for the inspection reports from the ministry in Aqua, and it is consistent. There were two non-compliances, and it relates to a sample not being taken. You know, it was one day off, and a missed alkalinity and pH sample on the distribution system, which were addressed by taking samples, you know, a little bit later. So those were satisfied. This report indicates that there was no boil water advisories in 2021, but if you all recall, we did have a water main break in July of 2021, and that led to precautionary boil water advisory. They do have a yellow dot on there, so I think their records indicate that it wasn't a green, but the word 0 should not be there in front of the boil water advisory. So the health and safety programs, the Ontario Clean Water Agency was able to work through COVID, and they make a point that they haven't had any shutdowns or service interruptions in the water treatment and wastewater treatment plants. They've also kind of taken a different approach in their training. Don't walk by. So if there's something that an operator is walking by and they see a problem, so they're going to report that problem and get it dealt with right away, as opposed to leading to a health and safety incident. Operation, both the water plant, the water plant and wastewater plant both operated well within all the treatment parameters. They're optimizing their processes. They're changing chemicals all the time to try to optimize the efficiency of the processes. We did see that. There's an indication in section 3 that they came in under budget, and that is the case in the wastewater treatment plant. They did come in under budget, but in the water plant, their budgets did see an increase over the budgeted amount, and that was mainly due to the effort that it took when we took the water tower out of service. They needed to staff the plant 24 hours a day, and we were aware of that cost. So we've asked them to amend this report, and we'll bring it back to council, just reflecting what the true value. But we did spend more in the water, attributed to the standpipe work, where they had to operate the plant 24 hours a day, and there's energy that had to run the pumps 24 hours a day, and that was expensive. So their asset protection, they have summarized the maintenance activities at the plant, and they do have more detailed reports available to us. But as far as any maintenance and capital work, they have to submit to us and get my approval on all the capital works, and then they submit the invoices that have to be supported by their requests. So they've always done a good job in that. They've done 778 preventative maintenance activities, 61 capital projects, and undertook 842 maintenance work orders. So they summarize some of the capital projects they've done in one of the pages of the report. The wastewater plant polymer system overhaul, the waste activated sludge pump variable frequency drive replacement, the clarifier chain tensioners were replaced, UV sensors, ferrochloride, that's the chemical they use to treat phosphorus. There was a fan motor replaced, and one of the more significant upgrades, both of the water plant and the wastewater plant, is after the fire in the blower at the pollution control plant, we did install enhanced smoke detection equipment. So they call it here a fire alarm system upgrade to provide earlier notifications at the water plant and the wastewater plant in the event of smoke being generated by some piece of malfunctioning equipment. So So those upgrades were done at both facilities, which I think will serve the town well in the future. And you're all aware that we have initiated a biosolids study to try to get biosolids out of our landfill site and to look at technologies that end up applying biosolids to agricultural land. And we did get an FCM grant of $22,000 to support that project. And this project is very near and dear to the Waste Management Committee as well, to get that sludge out of the landfill site and get some beneficial reuse out of it. The next page of the report just goes through the Ontario Clean Water Agency's pandemic response. And they were pretty much in lockdown mode through the entire COVID period, where they wouldn't allow outsiders into their plant. They were very cognizant that if they lost or if they lost containment of COVID in their operations group, their operations could suffer. The Ministry of Environment, I guess, at one point relaxed the legislation on the plants being operated by licensed operators, because there was, if they did get COVID, then they would be out of compliance. But the ministry worked with the operations groups to relax that legislation and to make sure that the plants were going to be run by whoever was available to run them. So fortunately, we didn't have any incidents. So with those minor corrections, we will have the Ontario Clean Water Agency amend the report, and we'll provide a copy to council with those amendments.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that report? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Sorry?
I just have a comment, if you don't mind. Sorry, I don't know if you can't see me, maybe. Okay. Yep. I just want to say to Director Aslan, thank you very much for taking a detailed look at this and making those corrections, or seeing that they're going to be done. And I appreciate you going through and reminding us. This is great to have 2021, a year in review, to know, just to bring back those things that happened in 2021, whether it was the boil water or the little fire that we had. It's good to just remind ourselves that that's what's happened. So thank you very much for that report.
Yes, you're welcome. And I'll just add that the water and wastewater contract with the Ontario Clean Water Agency is by far the largest component of our operating cost for the water and wastewater system. So we have discussed with Aqua, seeing that they're such a large part of our operations, that they should be coming forth and more visible at council as well, giving more regular reports, since it is such a large component of our operations.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, go back to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, is there any new or unfinished business? Councillor Johnson.
Yes, I'd just like to actually submit a notice of motion for June 14th. Can I just go ahead and read the motion?
Not sure what you're talking about there.
Okay, so under section 18.1 of the consolidated procedural bylaw, it is proposed that a motion be brought to council to vote at the next meeting to be held June 14th, 2022, for council to declare the caboose located at O'Brien Road and Mask Road intersection to be declared surplus to the needs of the municipality and dispensed with in a safe and reasonable manner following receiving the evaluation of offers from the community.
Okay. Clerk Bulmer, can we accept that as a motion, or how does that work?
Yeah, very similar to a couple of meetings ago where we had a notice of motion on the same topic. This will move forward to the June meeting of council, the next meeting of council, and we'll bring that motion forward for council's consideration. So it's duly noted, and we'll have that added to the next agenda for debate and council direction.
Thank you. Okay. Any other new or unfinished business? Review.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just wondering if there's been any Any progress at any of the committees or discussion about what division or department will lead the planning and eventual construction of the link from Mattaway out to Opeongo? I know we talked about the budget and it seemed to be sort of up in the air, and I wonder if it landed somewhere, or does council need to issue some kind of direction at the next meeting as to who should lead that or report back on it? Thank you.
I guess the only one I can turn to would be Director Aslan on that, maybe.
Yes, thank you, Revimo. As far as the Development and Works Department, I think we did communicate that link is part of the Master Transportation Plan considerations. We did have, there's actually a steering committee meeting tomorrow night, and I think the president of the Chamber of Commerce will be there, who has sort of an interest and mentioned that link. I think the Master Transportation Plan will develop a long list of options. That we've already mentioned, that link to the consultant, and actually when you look at it in a larger context, you know, there may be some projects that are developed around a link between Opeongo and 132, and actually beyond that, even to Highway 17, around the active development area. So, you know, there's you know, we did pull out a plan and looked at a connection from Lime Kiln Road, for instance, cutting across the boundary of Admiston and Renfrew, going out to 132, which is generally in the vicinity of the link that you're proposing. So I think that will generate a lot of discussion, and the you know, a lot of concepts may come out of the discussions through the Master Transportation Plan. You know, if council wishes it to advance in a particular manner on a different schedule, then you know, there should be some discussions through some committee or council.
Any other new business? Hearing none. Okay. Next motion being that the Renfrew County Council convene in closed session pursuant to the following sections of Municipal Act 2001. Pursuant to section 239(2)(b) of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters of an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, more specifically as relates to CAO negotiations. Pursuant to section 239(2)(c) of the Municipal Act 2001, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, more specifically as relates to the O'Brien Road property concerning hotel feasibility. Over, please. Councillor Sidney, second by Revimo. All in favor? We are now in closed session, and we'll take a recess till a couple minutes to 9, about 5 minutes.
I'll just give you a heads up here when we're ready. I think we're back to stream, so we can move ahead with the rest of the open portion.
Okay. The bylaw 50-2022 being the bylaw from the Proceedings Council Corporation, Town of Renfrew. Be read a first time, deemed to have been read a second time. The mover, please. Councilor Johnson, second by Councilor Colas. Any discussion? All in favor? That would be carried, thank you. The bylaw 50-2022 being the bylaw for Proceedings Council Corporation, Town of Renfrew, read a third time, be passed. Mover, please. Review one second by Councilor Hines. All in favor? Carried. We do now adjourn. It is 9:12. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. See you Thursday and Friday.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.